Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Julia Mbani, commonly known as Jules. On this channel we love to talk about books, literature development, and a sprinkle of other things here and there. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and let's go. Today's video is genuinely a ramble. I am literally just talking, and yeah. So in case you guys didn't know, Netflix recently added the Twilight series, and they added the first three. So they added Twilight, New Moon, and Eclipse. For some reason they didn't add Breaking Dawn, and at the same time Showmax added Breaking Dawn part 1 and 2. They didn't add the other 3. Sorry guys, I literally almost kicked my phone to the floor. Anyway, when I saw all these were being added in the same month, I was like, you know what, it's been a minute and I'm going to rewatch these movies. When Twilight first came out, I was in high school. Guys, it was a long time ago. I feel old saying that, but yeah, I remember I was in high school because it was around maybe 2011 2012 if I'm not wrong. And I remember really when I first read the books the first time, I'm not going to lie, I was obsessed. I really loved those books. I was like, Edward, find me now, I'm ready. But then of course I was young. I was, I think, 16, 17, and you know, those teenage years, the hormones and all that. But I won't lie, when Twilight first came out, I read the books and I really loved them. I was a huge fan. I know, there's haters and all that, but I loved Twilight when it came out. When the movies came out, I was a bit disappointed, I'm not gonna lie. First of all, who I had visualized in my head as Edward Cullen did not match who they chose. Jacob, well, I didn't really care much about Jacob, but I felt like I was really disappointed in Edward, in Emmett, in Jasper, and in Carlisle. I had higher hopes, guys. Nevertheless, I don't know, this keeps happening to me a lot when I read a book and I love it and they describe the main character as some most beautiful or most handsome person we've ever seen. Then it's adapted to a TV series and you see who they've cast and you're like, Fun fact, I heard that Henry Cavill was supposed to be Edward Cullen. Yeah, I don't see it now, and I'm glad he wasn't, because I know, no, let's just leave it at that. But yeah, when the movies came out, I watched them because at that time they were only available on DSTV, and I used to just sneak and watch them, and I kind of like them, but at the same time, you know, when you've read the book and you were really obsessed with the book, you feel like the adaptation did not really match the expectations. So that was my first experience with Twilight. My second experience with the Twilight saga was in After Campus, I think in 2018. That time I used to live with my two friends, Faith and Wendy. And Faith and I are both bookworms, and we used to, I don't know, I think maybe I told her about Twilight or what was happening in our lives, but for some reason we were reading the Twilight saga together. And it was so interesting, like, to read it in hindsight, because it's many years later, you're older, and also you've experienced the streets a bit. So we were reading it together, and actually that's one of the things I miss about living with my best friends. But I remember we used to read, and even when we're not together we will be WhatsApping each other things. For her, I think it was the first time she was reading the Twilight saga. So it was a really interesting experience. But you know, like, I started having questions about the whole thing and all that. Then now, recently, after I saw the saga on Netflix and all that, I decided now I'm going to read the ebooks, which I did, and I laughed all the way through. So my experience reading them at this age, at 28, was that first there was that nostalgic aspect of it. Kind of reminded me how I used to feel like the first time I read it and all that. So I just started thinking, what would happen if Julie Ambani was actually Isabella Swan and I was the one meeting these vampires? There's different options. So as a person, I really don't like the thought of paranormal things. One of my biggest fears is for one of my closest friends to come and tell me they've seen a ghost or a vampire or a werewolf, because they'll be telling me because they know I love them and that I'll help them. But honestly, I would not want anyone to be telling me such things. I acknowledge that there's paranormal things in this world. I mean, if I choose to believe that there's God, then there's other paranormal things in the world, but I don't like to engage with them. So my natural reaction, I think, is if I notice there's this group of handsome and beautiful people in school who no one associates with, I will not be the one to try and associate with them. I will be like, oh, it's like that, cool. And then, the first scene where Edward is interacting with Bella is when it's in the biology class, and he gets a sniff of her hair and he's so uncomfortable until Bella starts thinking, Ama, it's my hair that's smelling. Mimi, if that's your first reaction to us meeting, I will just be like, it's a wrap. I don't want anything to do with you. My ego is too big. And then like a few days later, Edward comes back. He's a whole new person. Why? Me, I don't have patience. First of all, it will be like your first impression will really affect me. I hold grudges, I'm petty. So we probably will not have continued talking. Let's say that we had continued talking. And I'm noticing, oh, your eyes are changing colors. Mara they're bronze, mara they're black. I'm noticing your skin is cold. I don't know, me, I don't like suspicious things and behaviors. So I'm telling you guys, I don't know if I was Isabella Swan, if there will be a Twilight Saga, sincerely, but let's keep going. Then we go to the forest now after I've made my research and I've discovered you're a vampire. And I'm asking you, how old are you? And you tell me 17. And how long have you been 17? I don't know, 100 years. Well, the way I would have, even Usain Bolt will not have had anything on me that day. Mimi, I do not like paranormal activities. I don't. Anything that does not fall into my scope of normal does not amuse me. Why would I be hanging out there if someone has just told me they're a vampire? I will be gone. I want to deal with normal human men. But yeah, I think my story would have ended there, because I will just tell Edward, leave me alone, and I would have told my parents I want to go back to Florida to stay with my mom. I have no time for this. But that's not Isabella. She continues staying there. We move on to, of course, there's the whole, oh, they offend Kina, Lawrence, and Victoria, and first of all, she almost dies. But no, she does not take that. Her love is so strong. I think I've said it before, I have a big ego. So maybe where I guess again I would have said no would have been in New Moon, when Edward decides that he wants to take himself away from this person, give them a chance at a normal life. So he just ups and disappears. No closure, no nothing. I really liked how Stephanie Meyer put it, like the period Bella was going through depression, just the names of the months, like time was just passing by. And like if you've been in these streets and you've experienced character development, you know how hard it can get to move on. It's really, heartbreak is really painful. So I can't imagine if this person had decided to go out of my life and then they think I died, so that they're going to kill themselves. I don't even think I would have entertained them anymore. Me, I would have been focused on moving on and erasing them from my life. Maybe that's where now my story would have ended, because I don't think I would have accepted this person back in my life. After you've shown me what pain is, hey, no. If Julie was Bella, I really don't think I would have entertained Jacob. Especially like now after New Moon in Eclipse. I really think Eclipse was one of the most, I rolled my eyes while reading that book. I was like, what the hell is happening here? Jacob was so immature. My goodness. Jacob was really petty, petulant, immature, and any other word in that category. I don't think I would have had the patience if I was Isabella Swan and Edward is back in my life. I focus on one person. I would have been with Edward. I don't even think I would have had time to entertain Jacob. Yes, I understand he really helped me when I was going through this heartbreak and whatnot, but some of those interactions there, I was like, what the heck is this now? Why is she putting up with this? Why does she feel like she has... Bella was a real people pleaser, if you're being honest. I'm being harsh. She was a people pleaser because where were the boundaries, man? Where were the boundaries? And this is Jacob, who has already told you that the werewolves imprint on people, and clearly he has not imprinted on you. So why will you be feeling guilty about living your life? Because even if you fall in love with him, he's not imprinted in you, so there's a high chance he's going to imprint one day, and then you'll be the one now you've been heartbroken by a werewolf and a vampire. Anyway, finally, Breaking Dawn. Breaking Dawn was very interesting. If I was Bella in that situation, I wouldn't have kept the baby to begin with. It wouldn't even have gotten to the part where I'm having a vampire baby. Basically, what I'm saying is that I, as Kenyan, black, and me, I don't think there's any way I would have entertained anything to do with vampires or werewolves in my lives. In fact, I even don't think my circle of friends would have accepted anything like that. My friend who I tell almost everything is Faith, and I think the moment I would have started saying over and over, I've met a vampire, she will literally have caught the next plane, come here, gone to my mom, and done an intervention for me, because that's how we roll. It's like, nope, you're being weird, and I'm going to involve everyone else. So first of all, my friends will not even really have believed me if I started talking about meeting a vampire, and they would probably have slapped that nonsense out of my head. Myself, I'm not too patient, so if Julie was Isabella Swan, basically there will not be any Twilight Saga. I think that's what I will say. But anyway, my experience in rereading the books was that, let me leave the books that I read in my youth to remain in my youth, because the experience is definitely not the same. I start asking myself so many questions, not to hate on the book, but I just start asking myself so many questions, and these are books that I really loved when I first read them as a teenager. So I've decided, let me not reread these books and spoil the experience. I'll just leave them as my teenage love affairs. Let them stay there. Let my teenage book boyfriends remain in the teenage book boyfriend era. Right now, what do I think about the saga? I think it's unrealistic, but we have to give credit for Twilight being the book that set about a pandemic of vampire and werewolf stories coming up, because Twilight came out, then Vampire Diaries, then so many other books and series and movies in that line really came out. So Stephanie really was a pace setter, and she wrote her books and disappeared. However, I'm going to say Stephanie has this other book called The Host. It's a book I read, I think, immediately after high school. So maybe I'm prejudiced, or maybe my memory is hazy, but I remember really loving The Host much more. Not because there's romance there, but not as unrealistic as Twilight. I actually really loved The Host, and I think I'm going to read it again. But guys, I think I should end this video there. I've really talked a lot of nothing, but basically I was just trying to think what would happen if I was Isabella Swan. I mean, what do you guys think? What will you do if you were in her shoes? But yeah, let's call it a wrap, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.